and welcome to Basic Folk, where we have honest conversations with folk musicians on the Bluegrass Situation Podcast Network. I am the host, Cindy Howes. Nice to be with you. And if you are listening in real time, it is our annual fundraiser. It's happening now, and you still have some time to get your Basic Folk Hotties 2023 wall calendar. We're now offering that as a gift of $5 a month or a gift of $60, but you heard all about it at the top of the podcast. If you contribute now and want the wall calendar, you might get it a little bit after the first of the year, but we'll still get it out to you. Okay, another way you can help us out is sign up for our monthly newsletter at basicfolk.com. You can follow us on social media at basicfolkpod. Very happy to have Zach Williams of the Lone Bellow on the show today. Huge fan of this band. Their latest from the Nashville-based, New York-bred, and Georgia-born trio, Love Songs for Losers, was recorded at Roy Orbison's creepy former house in Hendersonville, Tennessee. The house's vibe bled its way into the vibe of the album, which was co-produced by band members Brian Elmquist and Keneen Pipkin, producing vocals. The band went for a bombastic sound, and they did it with no adult supervision, read no outside producer influence. Frontman Zach Williams expounded on the experience along with his affinity for the house's architect, the eccentric Braxton Dixon. We talk about a few standout songs from the album, including Gold, which takes a look at the new small-town life heavily impacted by the opioid crisis, Honey, a sort of poking love song to his wife, and Homesick, which serves as the theme song for his new renovation program, The Williams Family Cabin. The TV show features Zach and his wife Stacy flipping a cabin outside of Nashville and all the antics that come with it. Zach is familiar with the world of home renovation shows thanks to his close friend and home reno personality, the designer Leanne Ford. He actually got some good advice from Leanne prior to starting the show, but neglected to listen. LOL. Zach's a really fun person to watch on stage. He's a remarkable showman. Catch the Lone Bellow live if you can. The new album is fantastic. That creepy old matchstick house must have really worked wonders. We're going to take a listen to Homesick, which is the theme song to Zach's new show, like I mentioned, and then we'll get to our conversation with Zach Williams of the Lone Bellow on Basic Folk.
I watch the sunset through the grass blades. The bats were coming in to dance on my street. My jeans were still wet from catching crawdads, and all the lightning bugs were lightning just to be. It's a short life, but it's a good life for my family and me. Oh yeah. If you're homesick, it's your heart telling your mind that you love somebody. If you got regret, there's a possibility that you got something to check off your list. It's a long walk home and a short life to live.
All right. Zach Williams, thanks for talking to me today. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming to the show last night.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was like, I was talking to my wife and I was like, these are the type of shows I want to go to. Like, we saw this, like, I won't name any names, but like a very like artistic singer-songwriter. Not to say that like Lone Bellow is not artistic, but it was very like esoteric. And I was just like, you know, dying bored at that concert. But like your concert, I'm always just like so sucked in. So every chance I get to see the Lone Bellow, I'm going to take it. In fact, Lone Bellow celebrated the 10th anniversary since forming as a band. I think in last year it was you formed in 2011.
Oh yeah.
And you and Brian, I think, have been friends for 20 years. You have known and worked with Brian and Keneen so closely, and it seems like we've talked about this before, that you all really like each other and love each other. But let's talk about, like, has there ever been a time when being in this band might have been challenging? Have there ever been any close calls when it comes to like parting ways? And if not, like, what keeps you all coming back to the Lone Bellow?
Yeah. I think when we went in to make the second record, I think that second record, like, is always just hard to make. Like, for us, our first record, we lucked out, and we, it hit the Billboard charts and, did all the fancy stuff that it was supposed to do. I can't remember what, but it did all the stuff that, like, I had always dreamed of that, like, got me on the road to be able to play music full time. And when the pressure of making the second album came up, that sophomore pressure was like a real thing. So I got pretty like controlling and worried, and it was like pretty hard to be around. And we made that record with Aaron Dessner, and he definitely helped. But I think that there were some moments there where the band was like, man, this isn't fun anymore. This kind of is a bummer. And it's funny, that stuff always comes out like either in interviews or in like VIP meetings. So it's almost like we never talk about that stuff, and then somebody asks a question, and then somebody answers in the band, and then you're like, whoa. Afterwards, you're just like, wait, you feel that way? And that just came out with that person at VIP's question. Yeah, so that was a challenge. And then another challenge was on the third record. I mean, right before we went in to make our third record at RCA Studios in Nashville with Dave Cobb, Brian, like, almost, like, really accidentally almost hurt himself really bad. And, he had to go to rehab for a month. And that was like really, scary and confusing and hard. And especially it was because, while we had the studio booked too, and but he came out of that, and it actually made us like so much stronger. And now, we're about to release our fifth record. It's the first one that we self-produced, and I feel like I can't say like professionally if we're doing better and musically. I mean, I think musically we're doing better, but our bond is definitely stronger just as human beings than it's ever been.
The band's origin story is based around a horse riding accident that left Stacy temporarily paralyzed, and she was recovering. You started turning journal entries into songs, and then, the story of the Lone Bellow kind of grows from there. What was your journaling process like versus like what it's like now, and how do you think being a songwriter impacts your journaling?
Yeah. That's where I started like writing songs. I was, just going through kind of like shock and grief and trying to figure out how to take care of Stacy, and my friends would come up and visit, and I would read them these like kind of like just like free writing expressions, and they were like, man, you should learn how to play the guitar and sing at the same time and try to make these songs. So I did, and I found this open mic that was just down the street from the hospital we were living at in Atlanta, and I just started going and singing these like nonsense songs to strangers, and it became like a really cathartic thing for me, and that's when I like fell in love with songwriting, and I moved to New York after Stacy got better. We moved to New York, and I played shows for several years on my own. Made a couple records, and then so that was like 2003 was when she fell. The band released put the Lone Bellow together in like 2011. Yeah, and I mean, I think when we put the Lone Bellow together, it was like, I think I was at the point where I was like sick of doing my solo project, and I had, they were really nice guys. They were all Canadian. I had all these Canadians in my band, and they were just so polite and said
too
yes.
Nice.
Yeah, just said yes to everything. And I wanted to like be a part of something. So that's when we put the Lone Bellow together.
Yeah, the new album is Love Songs for Losers, and you were talking about how you've always seen yourself as a loser in love. Which I was like, oh man, I can't wait to talk to Zach about like how he feels about being a loser. So like, what do you mean by that? And like, in what other ways do you feel like a loser?
I feel like I can boil it down, and it's a song that I sang last night. It's like the quietest song of the night. It's a song that like we probably are going to lose the crowd, but we wanted to try it anyway. But there's this new song that we just released called Unicorn, and the lyrics of the song, they kind of express someone who like is trying to express how much they love somebody, but like their words fail them. So like the chorus, or it doesn't really have a chorus, that it's just 4 parts, which is really fun too. I've never really done that before. But the main part that we'll call the chorus is like, I was kind of thinking I could tell you my feelings, sit you down and wreck you with some words that are pretty. I could say I love you, but it's such a bore. I think God made a unicorn. And the whole song is kind of about that, right? And I've never been able to truly, in the moment, like whether I'm talking to the person, like my significant other, or like a best friend, or my kids, or my parents, whenever it hits that moment and I'm like, I want to tell this person how much I love them, like I kind of fall into like a I love you, man kind of thing. Words always fail me, and I wonder if that happens with a lot of people. So it's kind of like a, in case you feel the same, this record's called Love Songs for Losers, like kind of thing.
Wow. I so relate to that. 'Cause it seems like the words aren't big enough for these feelings that you're experiencing. Yeah.
I mean, Michael Bolton did this like back in the day. He's like, said I love you, but I lied. This is more than what I feel inside, or something like that. And you know, I would listen to that and like laugh because he's like a human saxophone. You know, he's Michael Bolton. But I think there's a part of it that's true. But mostly it's supposed to make someone like, you know, maybe not laugh out loud, but just giggle.
Definitely. I think it's a perfect encapsulation of like the Lone Bellow's kind of twisted humor.
Right on.
I also love the cover. Everybody is like kind of dressed up fancy, but you're just like slouching.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like kind of like the end of the night, end of a party, where the last one's there, sitting on a ugly couch.
Yeah,
hideous.
The last one's at the party is rough. It has been a long time since I've been the last person at a party. Jeez. self-produced, and it seems like, just based on what I've read, it seems like approached this project with the intention of being kind of like over the top and huge with its sound.
Yeah.
You're saying that the songs are looking at bad relationships and wonderful relationships and all the in-between, sometimes with a good deal of levity. So in what ways did the inspiration for the songs, you know, if you're talking about like a good deal of levity, how did the inspiration impact the hugeness of the record's production?
Yeah. Well, first it was the physical location of where we made it. We found Roy Orbison's old house that was right next to Johnny Cash's old house that burned down, and right across from the street in Johnny Cash's mother's house where he passed away. The front yard was the orchard that Cash made for Roy after his sons died in a fire. Just a lot of houses burning down. What's crazy is it was all the same builder. This guy Braxton Dixon built all the houses. But we found out that no one lived in Roy Orbison's old house. We reached out to the owner, like cold called him. He lived in Chicago. And he gave us the house for 2 months. We made it a studio. And I think like definitely being in that huge, creepy, beautiful old house, feeling the spirit of Roy Orbison and just all those huge, big melodies that he had, like crying and everything. I think that definitely like made its way into this music. This sounds ridiculous, but like I went through a phase the past couple years where I just started listening to like a lot of Michael Bolton and Bryan Adams and like basically anybody who could have been in line to do the Robin Hood soundtrack back in the 90s. I just like I went down this rabbit hole and I found like I didn't look up who wrote all the love songs, but the love songs back then are just completely over the top. Like, I'll be your hero. Like, it's just like, it's endearing to me. And I think probably because my brain has it associated with like actual like movies. You know, like when the arrow goes into the tree in slow motion and Robin Hood, and it's like that Bryan Adams song comes on. Like, I don't know. I was like, man, I want to at least make a couple songs on this record that are like swinging for the fences like that. We've never done that before. That could be a lot of fun. So that mixed with Roy Orbison's house really did it.
You made the record in Roy Orbison's former home in Nashville, and you've talked about Braxton Dixon a little bit. It was designed and built who would take, you've talked about him. I actually learned about him from you a while ago. You're talking about how he would take parts of houses from across the country and build them in Nashville. He built houses for Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison. A lot of them actually burned down. Mm-hmm. For those who are not familiar, can you talk about what a Braxton Dixon house looks like and why you find them so appealing?
Yeah, I mean, Marty Stewart coined the phrase Frank Lloyd Wrong about Braxton Dixon. It's like he would take apart all these old cabins and barns across the country, and then he would build these large, crazy houses in Nashville for these country singers back in the like 60s and 70s and on through the 80s. They're beautiful and weird, and none of the wood matches, and there's always a spiral staircase somewhere that's like made out of wood, and there's always a heart that he hides in every fireplace that he carves in stone. It's just like all these really neat things, but yeah, I mean, so many of them have already burned down, but there's still several in Nashville. And the first one that he built for Roy Orbison burned down. So I can't believe Roy Orbison had him build him another house, but whatever. But yeah, this house, it was like 7,000 square feet. But since it was his like party house, there's only 2 bedrooms, and the bedrooms were probably like maybe 400 square feet apiece, and everything else was just like gigantic living rooms and an indoor pool and all this. And
Wow.
And it's right on the lake in Hendersonville.
Yeah, the houses, I was looking at pictures of the houses and they look like, did you ever see Casper, like the late 90s Casper?
Yes.
Yeah. It looks like the Casper mansion.
On the outside.
Spot on. Yeah, and if you're in there and you look at the details pretty close, you're like, oh, this is kind of not done well. But like the overarching idea is cool, but like, you know, none of the wood matches. I got really into this dude, and I went and met his widow, and she took me on a tour, like at their main estate. There's 5 dilapidated cabins that he built for all of his kids, and then his main house where she lives in alone now, and she is like Grey Gardens, but in Nashville. She was full of insane stories, and you're like, are you fake crying right now, or is this what's going on? Like,
wow,
just
intense.
I love that kind of storytelling.
Wow.
There's just an incredible amount of history and beauty, and we actually teamed up with a company called RRL, and we made a 45-minute documentary about the house called Bread and Jam, and you could find it on YouTube. And we had like all these musicians fly in. One of Cash's daughters sang, and Cedric Burnside flew in and did a song, and we had all these folk singers come in from New York and this and that, and yeah, you should check it out. It's really stunning.
Okay, so you and Stacy have a new renovation show called The Williams Family Cabin, which I have like 1,000 questions about.
Oh my gosh.
So on the show, Stacy was talking about walking the line of her different like design inspirations she has, like grandma chic, and mixing that with like modern when it comes to design, which kind of reminded me of trying to like walk the line musically, where like maybe you want to make this album as big as possible, but I don't know, after you just pulled out Michael Bolton and Bryan Adams, if this is actually accurate. Like, okay, you don't want the Lone Bellow to be Journey,
Sure.
right?
But maybe
You like it to be like a huge Bruce Springsteen record, or maybe like something else, like something more like serious, you know, something more reverent.
you know.
Yeah, so we did a few of those like grandiose, really just like huge swinging for the fences songs, but we also did stuff that we've never done before. Like, for instance, like Brian sings a song that I wrote the lyrics to called Dreamin', and it's like, it's really, there's no harmony on it. It's only Brian's voice and a piano. It's like in the middle of the record. There's this song called Homesick. I talked about it last night at the show, but you know, the night that John Prine passed away, I woke up in the middle of the night and wrote that song, and it's the closest thing to like a front porch pick and hang sound that we've ever done. I mean, it's like nothing but like it's just like acoustic guitars and fiddles, and I don't think there's even drums on it. So like the record has like both sides of the spectrum. And that quote that you read is definitely Brian's quote. He loves that word levity. Like, for instance, and I can't believe that Dual Tone decided to put this out as the first single, but the first single is a song called Gold, and it's a song about the opioid epidemic in like small town America. It's kind of all over there's many colors to this rainbow.
Um, Brian was talking about how the band's always been like this weird Pentecostal revival thing, that your music was so much bigger than anything shown on record before. And he says this time we turned over every stone until we got the songs exactly where they needed to be. And it sounds like you guys had like no adult supervision while making the album this time around. So what did that feel like? Like, was the freedom ever too much?
No, I don't think so. We just had full reign to sleep there and just work through the middle of the night if we wanted to, and just like really just feel the whole process kind of like come out. And like especially I feel like vocally, you know, we've never spent this much time on working on the harmonies and like literally writing the vocal parts. And Kaneen definitely like produced the vocals for this record. That's probably one of the stones that he's talking about, because usually when you make a record with like a well-established producer, or when I have, they get really into the instrumentation of a song. They're like, all right, you guys do the vocal and then we'll move on to the next song.
Right.
Isn't the vocal like the most important part? So it was really great, just like not doing it that way and really focusing forever. I mean, she made me re-sing songs like hundreds of times. But she was like, I know that you can do something different or something better because I've been singing with you on stage for the past 10 years. So she like really pushed us. It was great.
What did you learn about your singing from Kaneen on this record?
She, two things. One was, she really like pushed me into my falsetto more on this record. Usually I'm like belting, right? I'm like, wah! And she wanted to explore like my falsetto. So the other thing was just like, she's really big about vowels. So I would say like land, and she'd be like, don't say and like that. That's annoying. Do like land. Or there's just like little bitty things. I'm like, okay. But then after the product was done and we started mixing it, I was like so glad that I listened to her.
What was it like so Brian co-produced the record and Kaneen was the vocal producer. What was it like to take direction from your bandmates? And also, why weren't you into any of the producer things?
I kind of like quietly oversaw the direction of everything. And
The shadow producer, Zach
yeah,
Williams.
yeah. And I don't really need accolades, you know. I'm like I'm above all that, man. Like, no, I mean, Brian's kind of the music director of the band anyway, so it just like fit. Like his brain, like even at shows, he's thinking about what he's playing on guitar more than he's thinking about singing. I'm thinking about like, are we hosting a night for people? And then I'm thinking about like my vocals. I feel like that was like what we brought into the studio. Like I was thinking about like, yeah, kind of like the vibe of the song and just like the like 30,000 foot view direction of what we were doing. And he was in the like minute details of like the exact tone of this fiddle, and then let's sit it over here in this part of the room and mic it way over here and da. And I want to care about those things, but sometimes I wonder he cares so much about it that like it gives me the freedom to be like, it's gonna sound good because he's so passionate about it. So I'll concentrate on like Is it the perfect tempo? Is this the right key? Are we delivering the song in like in a laid back way, or in the way that we like, that kind of thing?
About the show, The Williams Family Cabin, it's you and Stacy flipping a cabin outside of Nashville, and it's like part of this. I've watched all the episodes, and it's really good. I've watched like a lot of those HGTV renovation show, like Leanne show, and I just love them. They're just like kind of like part of a culture of comfort, if you know what I mean, to watch those shows.
That's well
So
said.
What do you think about that culture, and what is it like for you to be part of that?
I mean, you know, we bought this cabin with my friends. They own this company called Chess at 3, which is this incredible company that teaches kids how to play chess at 3 years old. And they developed a board game. They developed a board game that teaches kids how to play chess. It's hilarious. I think it's called Storytime Chess. And we were all celebrating. They won the Toy of the Year award, which is like the Grammys for toys. And we were like, yay. And they were like, let's start an LLC together and start buying property. And Stacy, my wife has this antique shop in Nashville. They're like, Stacy, you'll decorate it with your stuff at your store, and like we'll just create these places for people to go and have fun, and maybe be inspired. Our friends up in New York that own a TV production company caught wind of it, and they were like, hey, we'll pay for the renovation of the cabin if you let us film. So we were like, duh, okay. And I remember I called Leanne. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. And she was like, hey, it's way harder than you think it is. It's going to be really time consuming. I was like, I don't know, Leanne. I don't think so. Like, they said they're just going to come film us do the work we're doing anyway. She was like, please listen to my wisdom. And I was just like, nah. So we did it, and it took forever. Stacy did not like the hurry up and wait vibe of the whole thing. And I'm kind of like the color commentator on Best in Show. That's kind of my vibe on this show. But I think, I used to make fun of it. Like, there's a South Park that makes fun of these shows. And they're like, white people renovating houses. I don't know if you've seen that episode, but it's hilarious. But I think that there is like this quiet comfort. Like, sometimes when I'm by myself, I'll turn on Seinfeld to eat lunch. I'll just watch one episode of Seinfeld on Netflix and just eat lunch. Maybe it like falls in that category a little bit. I don't know. I had never watched the shows before either. I'd never watched any renovation show. So I had no idea. And when I watched this one, I was like, dude, this is so boring. Like, no one's going to watch this. And it's like tied at #1 on the Magnolia Network with Chip and Joanne's show right now. And I'm just like, whoa, okay. People are watching this show.
It's good.
Thanks. I'm happy with it. I mean, they made it really beautiful. Like the colors and the tones and all of the drone shots and stuff. Like, it's just like really pretty. So I like that.
You've done TV, music videos, etc., but maybe Stacy was new to this type of public exposure, the good and the bad that come with it. How has she found public life because of this show?
Nobody. It's funny to me because I guess the show did really well, like in that world, but like it hasn't changed anything. Like a couple people have come up to her like at an airport and been like, "Hey, I like your show," But I feel like those shows are just like such a passive audience. Like, I don't know. I don't think anybody recognizes her. She did not like the making of the show, like, because it like messed with her flow of work, like how she, decorates and stuff like that. She is really grateful for the network and the people that we got to meet, and the work that it let us do to this cabin that we restored in Nashville. That's like, it's really cool. It's on 5 acres, but it's in the city limits. It's right next to this place called Loveless Cafe. And we wanted to make this place that was kind of like a retreat for friends / strangers that needed a place to just get away and be creative. And yeah, they made a TV show about it, and it was hilarious. They make me look like a complete idiot. And I mean, I had a feeling that they were doing that while we were making the show.
That's like the archetype for the guy, right?
Yeah, so I leaned in. Yeah, I leaned into it a little bit, and I'm happy I did.
What did you learn about Stacy from this experience?
Well, it was really beautiful, like, watching her do her work. Stacy's like, she has supported me for almost 20 years now, like, and didn't mind being really broke for a really, really long time while I was trying to do music, and worked her butt off, and just like has been with me through thick and thin. And then we had all of our kids, and she stayed home, and I supported the family with music, and and then the kids got old enough where she wanted to pursue her dream of starting this antique store, this furniture store, and she did it. And it's been really inspiring, just like watching her finally like try to do something that she's really passionate about.
Her stuff is awesome. Does she ship to Maine?
I've told her, I'm like, you got to partner with like a white glove company that'll like ship your stuff around. I don't know. Usually
Sign
people like find somebody to ship it for them, but
yeah. It was great stuff. Loved it. The theme song for the show, which is also on the new album, is Homesick. And this question is a little bit windy, but you wrote that song in the middle of the night after you found out John Prine died. It's not necessarily about him, but it seems like he was keeping you up that night. Mm-hmm. You'd never met him, but you said losing that voice in our world really meant a lot to me. It surprised me. And I've felt that before for famous people that are leaders in certain circles, people that are not like personally in my life. So can you talk about that kind of surprise grief you experienced with John Prine, and when that grief has crept up on you at other times?
Yeah, I mean, he was such a listener his whole life, and like I think about, like, it was weeks later, but the New York Times, one of the dailies, they dedicated a whole show to just telling like snippet stories of all these people that had died. And one of the tiny stories was John Prine's brother, and he was like, yeah, he was just a real quiet person, and the whole time he was just sitting there listening, and then he started telling us stories, and I don't know, I mean, I felt like losing somebody that had such an art for listening, like, especially in a way that was so shocking, he died of COVID, and it was heartbreaking. And the music community like mourned over it. My agent Jonathan Levine, who's like, buttoned up businessman, he called me up just like bawling. I mean, he was like good friends with Prine and Fiona, but yeah, I mean, I think it just worried me. It was a part of like the first like holy crap wave of people dying.
Yeah.
I think that happened to me when David Bowie died, and when Prince died, and I remember when Michael Jackson died. I was in Harlem, and the like walking past the conversations on the street on like 124th Street, people were confused because he had all of the allegations and stuff were like live and real, but they were also heartbroken because this person that was like a theme track to their life had just like suddenly died and they didn't know why. And
yeah,
I don't know.
Surreal. The song Honey is about you and Stacy in the early part of your relationship, and you said it turned into a song about sometimes wanting to go back when we were first in love and to fight the ability to feel things when there are so many logistics, which I think is such a great reminder to put that out there. Like, what's that struggle like for you to experience life while you're trying to get your checklist done?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the daily fight. Like, there's this book called The War of Art, and I love, this guy always talks about the resistance that pushes against anyone that's trying to create anything that doesn't exist yet. And it can be really, really minor and still like really powerful. And I think that same resistance lives in a human being's relationship, and just like the temptation to just walk around afraid or feeling exhausted but not taking care of yourself all the time. The temptation to do that, like that comes up like every day. And that's the, for me, that's like one of my favorite like fights against the unknown, is that just like daily like, no, I'm not just going to worry about how to pay for my insurance and figure out my taxes and pay the mortgage. Like I'm going, and I mean, gosh, in America we've conjured up this insane need to want so much. We've got a ball and chain that we need to get rid of. Or try to. Anyway, I'm just trying to
more about that.
No, I mean, I'm just like no, it's just like mostly just like that daily like resistance, to try to put. Yeah, you're focused on trying to love someone instead of just them like turning into a roommate and you're just like checking off boxes all day long.
Yeah. The song Gold takes a look at new small town life. Amazing song. Small town life now heavily impacted by the opioid crisis. And it's written from the perspective of a guy who's stuck in the downward spiral of addiction. And you're using words normally found in songs about small town life, like Johnny, Main Street, True Love Found in Parking Lots. And it's got that like John Mellencamp, Bob Seger, Killers feel to it. How do you relate to that tradition in blue collar rock of writing about a modern struggle and making it seem timeless? Like, how did you work timelessness into this song?
I mean, I don't know. I think what I was trying to do was tell the story like specifically like from my family, and where I'm from, and you know, I've got cousins that are on the verge of death, and have been struggling with this crisis for a really, really long time, and I wanted to kind of play on the like Jack and Diane vibe, but like try to
Jack has a heroin problem.
yeah, but like try to say like, well, this is what's happening in sweet small town America right now, and it's really unnecessary. I saw last week that like Walgreens and CVS paid like some $quadrillion thing, but they also like said like it's not our fault. It's not our fault. The opioid crisis isn't our fault, but they I can't remember the number, but it was like insane. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to use the language that others have used, romanticizing small town American life, but I also wanted to try to kind of like turn that hard left turn of like, here's what's actually going on behind the closed doors of those little houses and the underbelly of it all. And nobody talks about it. I mean, I can at least talk about like from my small town. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Zach Williams, let's do the lightning round.
Ready?
All right, let's do it. Lightning round.
Okay.
What is your favorite scented candle?
I can't smell. I would say like hickory.
What color is your soul?
Brown.
What is your least favorite household chore?
Folding the sheets that wrap around the mattress.
Oh, God, hate that one. What is one song you wish you had written?
I Can't Make You Love Me.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Matthew McConaughey. Duh.
If you were not a human, what animal would you be?
Rhino.
What is your favorite Michael Bolton song?
The one with all the key changes. You know what? It's the one where he's talking about like, said I love you, but I lied.
Ooh,
because
goodness.
this is more than what I feel inside. See, he did it.
What is your favorite Bob Seger song?
My favorite Bob Seger song?
The answer is Fire Lake.
Okay, Fire Lake. Or didn't Seger do the Chevy commercial, Like a Rock? Like
So
a
basic.
rock.
That is such a basic answer. It's Fire Lake.
I don't listen to him. I love his t-shirts. I love the t-shirt with the horses, but I don't listen to Bob Seger.
Go check out Fire Lake.
All right, Fire Lake.
Okay, this is the last question. Where's the most beautiful place you've ever visited?
Shetland Island,
Great.
where the Shetland ponies are from.
The ponies.
Zach, thank you so much. I wish we had more time.
Dude,
It's always a blast
Thank you.
talking to you.
you too. Thanks again for coming last night.
Yeah. I liked all of I had a question about your hat collection. We'll just have to talk about that next time. There it is, Roberto Clemente.
From the Roberto Clemente Museum in Pittsburgh.
Thank you again for your time.
Yeah.
See you next time.
All right, next time. Thank you so much for these questions
Yeah.
and helping us out.
This episode of Basic Folk was produced by me, Cindy House. Our music composed by Alex Stanton. Basic Folk is on the Bluegrass Situation Podcast Network. You can find all of our episodes there. You can search for us on the SiriusXM app under Basic Folk. Check out our website, basicfolk.com, or you can listen wherever you get podcasts. Talk to you next time. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. You're the best. Bye.